Welcome back to In the Alley. My name is Cody. Glad you guys are back for another video. Yet another change of scenery just downstairs in my kitchen. And we've got a preview to take care of. So, Quad City at Iowa. Let's get into it. All right, our lone Saturday night game. It's an I-80 rivalry between the Quad City Steamwheelers and the Iowa Barnstormers. So with the preview popping up, let's take a look at it. We have a 7:05 p.m. kickoff, as always, on the Indoor Football League Network. There's been some confusion, but it will always be on the Indoor Football League Network. So, simple as that. As I've said in previous previews, at least yesterday's, I'm not doing stats just yet. The stats are still wonky. So until we actually get like a full-blown set of stats, I'm just going to kind of do some impact players and talk about them for a second. So starting off, it's pretty much always going to be the quarterbacks, Daquan Neal and Joaquin Collazo III. Collazo looked really good against Green Bay, especially in the second half when, Iowa started to make a comeback and fell just short. Daquan Neal has looked, dare I say, back to his MVP form, or at least pretty close to it. I don't know if a change of scenery was needed for him. Not saying Bay Area was terrible or anything like that, but Daquan Neal just looks like he has more of a pep in his step, dare I say. But overall, both these quarterbacks are going to be dueling it out. One, more of your pocket passer style throw. One, kind of a dual threat, one a run first, throw second. So we'll see how these strategies collide. That's kind of what happened last week between Iowa and Green Bay. Kind of go from there. For the skill positions, Jared Ware and Kean Williams. Jared Ware has been running really well. If he can keep the ball off of the turf. I know he fumbled against Massachusetts. I don't think he's fumbled ever since then. He might have, but we'll see. The running game is going to have to get going against Iowa. I mean, the passing game will as well, and that's where Ware can excel. He caught that 2-point conversion. He's got a couple of passes, some pretty good ones too. So look for him to get into the passing game along with whoever they suit up, whether it's Devonair Conliffe, Jordan Vesey, Kevon Rudd, Davion Johnson, whoever the case could be. For Iowa, this man, Kean Williams, he was practically the offense against Green Bay. That's not to downplay Caleb Hood or Jalen Bracey or Hunter Clausen or anyone like that. But this is the offense. They're going to look early. They're going to look often. They're going to try and get Kean Williams open as much as they can because the man is just that good. So we'll kind of see what goes on with it. But if Iowa has Kean Williams taken out of the picture, and we'll talk about it more obviously later on, but if he gets taken out of the picture, you need someone to step up. We'll see. Defensively, I've got Keyshawn Moore. I have not really heard his name too much. David Cagle's kind of taken a little bit on that defensive line, and Bub Arslanian is back doing what he's doing. That secondary is doing really well too, with Cam Harrell with a return touchdown and stuff like that. I have not heard Keyshawn Moore's name, so I'm putting him here just as kind of a prove it kind of thing. Like, get after it, big fella. You had all IFL accolades last year. I want to see. And maybe he has, and I just haven't been paying too much attention because other people have been stealing the thunder. But so far, I want to see his name called. I want to see some big plays from him, blow up the offensive line, things like that. Get after the quarterback. We'll see. Kadri Jackson for Iowa. I have him here just to be the spy for Daquan Neal. We know Neal is going to run it. We know he's going to throw it. But do we have a linebacker that's going to spy him? Is he going to drop into coverage when he knows it's a pass? Is he going to blitz when he knows it's a run? Is it going to be a big measuring stick? I mean, he played Max Myler last week, came up short, but they were able to put a little bit of pressure on Myler. They were able to make him a little uncomfortable, but Myler was able to sling it quite a bit. They were able to run it quite a bit with Kaimani Clark. So what can Iowa do to kind of clamp down on defense? And I think he's going to be kind of a vital part for that. So let's take a look at our injury report. Not too much to report on here. Chimadunga and CJ Parrish are added to the injury report, which means 2 people have been taken off the injury report, which we'll touch on in the 25-man roster. Iowa, still no injuries. Game odds for this one, over under of 84.5, and Iowa is an underdog at home plus 1.5. Now, these odds are done by FanDuel and not DraftKings, so it's a little wonky for me. There's no plus money. But Quad City with a 1.5 point favorite, or 1.5 point favorite on the road. The money line juiced -130 for them and -102 for Iowa. So again, an underdog roll, but still not too much on your return right there, -102. So if it was plus money, maybe, but -130 and -102, they've got very close odds. We are at the Wells Fargo Arena in Des Moines, Iowa. And again, I've said this plenty of times, Wells Fargo Arena, Des Moines, Iowa, Wells Fargo Center, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are at the arena. We are at the barn that they storm. Again, 7:05 p.m. kickoff time, and our head-to-head 6-5 in favor of Quad City. So they can take a 2-game lead here in our head-to-head, or Iowa can tie it right back up. Their last meeting was, I got to look at it, week 14, where Iowa won 28-27. They've played some pretty close games, and there's a reason why that point spread is only 1.5. So let's go take a look at our 25-man rosters, bets, predictions. We move on. All right, 25-man rosters popping up over my face, and let's take a look at it. For the away side first, the Quad City Steamwheelers are more than likely going to start DeQuan Neal. Demery Croft is your backup. Jared Ware has started the last 2 games. Gino Appleberry, I do not even think has suited up. So we will see if that is more of the same or if we get a second running back in the mix this time. Wide receivers have been kind of all over the place. Kevon Rudd and Jordan Vesey have kind of been your mainstays. Devonair Conliffe has gotten into the game. Travell Calvin has gotten into a game. Davion Johnson has gotten in. I think he's actually gotten into both games now that I'm thinking about it. But we'll see who kind of gets that 4th wide receiving role. Deion McShane, I do not believe, has suited up either for the Steamwheelers. Offensive line, Tyrone Patterson is off the short-term injured reserve to add some depth to the offensive line. Joe Crowell, Ivory Scott, Tyrone Chambers round out that offensive depth. On the defensive line, this is where it gets a little murky. Kadir Shepard, David Cagle, and Keyshawn Moore are your defensive line. With Chimadunga going on the short-term injured reserve, this bodes a little concerning because you don't have really any depth there at that defensive line. So if any of those guys need a spell, if any of those guys need a breather, you're going to have to look somewhere for it. On the linebacking spot, Bubba Arslanian, most likely going to be your starter. I do not believe Brian Lee Jr. has suited up for a game. For the defensive secondary, Trey Smith, Chris Chekwineke, Nicholas Harris is off of short-term injury reserve to replace CJ Parrish, Malik Duncan, and Cameron Harrell. So more of the same there. Smith, Chekwineke, Duncan, and Harrell will most likely be your starters. Harris will most likely be your depth piece there. And then your kicker, Kyle Kaplan, he's played in both games. For the Iowa side, Joaquin Collazo, again, kind of showed out last week. He will most likely be your starting quarterback. Niall McLaughlin will be your backup. Hunter Clausen, your only running back on the roster. Wide receivers, Keyshawn Taylor, Kean Williams, Jalen Bracey, and Caleb Hood. I do not think Shaq Currington suited up, if I'm not mistaken, but with those 4 wide receivers, they played pretty well, all things considered. Your offensive line, Rodney Luckett, Desmond Besant, and Paul Fay. Paul Fay, former Quad City Steamwheeler, so maybe a little bit of a revenge game there. And then Tyler Castaneda, we'll see if he suits up, fits in. He just got traded from San Diego last week, so maybe a little bit of some offensive line depth. On the defense, Patrick Godbolt, Joshua Ellison, Gabe Smith, Tyler Tate, and just newly signed Jared Johnson. So for that defensive line, Ellison, Smith, Tate, Godbolt, one of them is going to probably sit. Maybe Jared Johnson gets the start. I'm not sure. But there is a little bit more depth than what Quad City had for their defensive line. Kadri Jackson is your only linebacker, so lack of depth right there, but most notably, someone can probably step up from the secondary if they need to. Speaking of the secondary, Larry Walker, Caleb Street, Isaac Duffy, Jared Sod, Jaleel Brown, and Darius Harper. And again, 6 guys, you only start 4, which means 1 will probably be the backup, 1 won't suit up, and we'll just kind of see where it is. I think Jared Sod was the reserve with 4 other starters, and we'll just kind of take it from there. Kicker is Gabriel Rui, and that is your 25-man roster for Iowa, your 25-man roster for Quad City. So with all of that, let's go ahead and take a look at our bet, our prediction, and everything else. All right, it is time to place a wager. Our wager, -1.5 for Quad City. And that is totally a homer play for me. I don't mind the +1.5 for Iowa, but the way that they played, it just boils down to, can you stop the passing game? And first game jitters, not knowing tape, not knowing rookies, things like that. For Green Bay, Iowa was able to come back, but for a minute there, it was like 30 or 40 something to 19, if I'm not mistaken, last week, and Iowa had to have a furious comeback. Now, the Barnstormers do play a team with very similar strategy, a dual threat style quarterback, a pretty solid defense, a good defensive line, and a good linebacker. Like I said, I'm a little bit concerned with the defensive line depth. If Quad City cannot get someone off the field, or if they're too tired, then Iowa can exploit that. The downside is Iowa's going to exploit that by passing the ball. Now, if you were using Hunter Clausen to just run and run and run, or Joaquin Collazo to just run and run and run, and maybe wear down that defensive line more, maybe. So like I said, the concern is still there. But Iowa has their own issue with offensive line depth. Does Tyler Castaneda get into the game? Does he suit up? They only have 4 offensive linemen, so something's got to give right there. They only have 1 running back on the roster. So again, only 1 linebacker as well. So again, some attrition could play into this game, and one team could wear down, one team couldn't. We'll see. I'm not saying Iowa's going to wear down. I'm not saying Quad City is, but it could happen. You will see, if you see any long sustained drives, which I think Iowa does not want. I think they want to throw the ball quite a bit. Maybe they do want some long drives. Maybe they want some chunk plays. But maybe Quad City wants to, sorry, I bumped my desk. Maybe Quad City wants to run the ball, waste time, kill clock, control the game. That's going to wear down Iowa's defense. So we'll just kind of see. Like I said, the depth is a little concerning for me on both sides of the ball at certain positions, but overall, this is just totally a homer play. Most betting lines this week are very close. So with this, -1.5, you got a team that's 2-0, a team that's 0-1. They weren't that good at home last year. I think when I saw the stats, they were 4-4 at home for the Barnstormers. So they want to correct that, don't get me wrong, but I do think Quad City is in a position here to start 3-0 if they can get things going. What I mean by that is they have to make sure that they keep Iowa guessing. Throw it when they think they're going to run when they think they're going to throw, and really just use your balanced style offense. Use the depth that you have at wide receiver to run the ball, to pass the ball, and kind of keep things as fresh as you can offensively. So there we have it for that. -1.5. My prediction for this game, it's close because these two teams play each other close all the time. 42-39. It's not a game-winning field goal by Kyle Kaplan like he has in the past. It's not a 1-point victory like Iowa had just their last meeting. It is a 3-point victory here. I just think Quad City ekes this one out. I don't even think it's an Iowa comeback. Not like last week against Green Bay. Both these teams are going to feel each other out. I think Quad City gets the best of it. So let's go ahead and wrap things up. Get out of here. And that is it for our Quad City at Iowa preview. I am really looking forward to this one. It's always fun when these two teams get together, a nice little rivalry game. And it's got me thinking maybe next year, depending on what teams come back, because I've heard Duke City and Sioux Falls are for sure coming back. I think there should be a week dedicated to rivalries. You know, if Sioux Falls comes back, Sioux Falls and Green Bay, Iowa, Quad City, Tucson, Arizona, Bay Area, San Diego, like an entire week dedicated just a rivalry week, like they do the final week of the college football season, something like that. And I know they have rivalry week in Major League Soccer where there's just an entire week dedicated, like Sporting Kansas City plays St. Louis SC or whatever. So I think that'd be kind of cool to draw up some interest if they can. Just have an entire week dedicated to that. You'd have to kind of get a little funky with it, you know, Tulsa, San Antonio, or Vegas versus Northern Arizona or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, figure it out. Jacksonville, Massachusetts would be a fun one. But anyway, enough of my ramble here. I'm going to take off here, guys. Thank you for everything. Thank you for watching, supporting, subscribing, doing all that. If you want to keep doing that, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that cool, awesome mumbo jumbo. But with that, I'm going to take off here, guys. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what you do and taking the time out of your day to watch these. With that being said, I'm going to go edit this. I'm going to go edit my recap video between Fishers and Tulsa, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.